Okay, thanks everybody for being here. I'll call the meeting to order. I see multiple people are online. Thanks guys for tuning in. Any additions to the agenda that you have in front of you? I think I sent this out last week, and I don't think anybody has responded.
I new business of money spent on stocking fish.
Okay. We'll add
So
that
if we
in
could
there.
add money spent on stocking fish.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much. Approval of the previous meeting minutes. I think Paul sent those out. I've read through them.
I have as well. I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Second, okay, thank you very much. All right, Tom, any comments from you?
Nothing really to add. I mean, we're going to be going over the Lake Ann sinkhole in a few minutes, and then of course Loch Lomond is full with all the rain. But no, nothing really to cover.
Okay, Rick, I know is on the phone. I'll go to him in a second. John, you got anything besides what Rick's going to say, or should we just go to Rick? Okay, Rick, you're on. Is he there? Okay. All right, we can go on to some other business. So, we current.
One question.
Uh-huh.
I saw something posted the other day. We had a boat that sunk at the marina. What was the story with that? It was a recovery company or something posted it that they got to bring this boat up. It looked like a ski boat or something that was down to about the water level. Anything about that?
I personally do not. I did not hear about it.
I think I heard this one. You know, we had all that rain in a very short amount of time, and I think the boats, I think I'm showing my ignorance of boats, but the grommet or whatever that allows you to drain the boat was plugged or something like that.
Okay.
I think that's what I heard, and so all that rain came and collected, and that's what sunk it. If we're talking about the same boat, but someone told me that like a week ago.
I was there at the marina. The marina manager, not the manager, but the marina operator mentioned there was one. I went and looked at it. It was an outboard boat. So, and the whole stern was underwater, but it was tied to the dock. So the rope to the dock was the only thing keeping it up.
That sounds like.
But it was motor was totally underwater. That had to be the same one.
I think we're talking about the same one.
The property owner is paying
of it, so it's out of the way.
Okay, Rick, since you're on, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Let me make sure these notes are, I can read my notes here.
Oh, while he's going over that, I will say in general on the boat and things like that, that's pretty common this time of year. So if you've got a boat tied up at the marina, you know, check your batteries and that sort of thing. What commonly happens is bilge pump batteries have, you know, been going through all winter and haven't been charged. And eventually they just run out of juice. We get a big rain like we did, and the bilge pump just can't keep up with the rain, drains the battery. And usually the rangers will catch something like that and will report it to the property owner. But it sounds like in this case, that one just happened so quickly we didn't catch it.
Okay, so I can get into my, I'm sorry I was late getting on. I can get into my notes. Is that what you're asking, Matt?
Yes, Rick, go ahead.
Okay. So the Loch Lomond drawdown is behind us. We finally got some good rain to bring that back up. All valves are closed. But what's good for Lomond is bad for Lake Ann, which we're trying to get down in order to fill the sinkhole. The good news about that whole situation is the ditch that carries that water, that overflow water, was kind of grown up, but Carroll Electric happened to be in the area doing their, excuse me, doing their trimming. And they've been in and done their work and gotten out. And now that area can handle a lot more water. So what we were able to do was open the second siphon, which had its own problems, but we were able to solve those. And now we've got both siphons going. So even with the recent heavy rains that we've gotten, we are currently 4 inches down and headed in a positive direction. So as we get closer to our goal, we'll be in touch with the contractor to make sure that they're geared up to come on site and take care of that for us. Let's see. Our lake rangers, POA rangers actually, March is kind of the month that begins our ramp up for the year. They had 1,386 contacts, 33 people removed, 122 by boat, and 42 3/4 hours on the water. As that compares to February, 683 contacts, so almost twice. And for March of 2021, we were at 1,300. So we're year over year, we're about where we should be. We are in the process of hiring 6 additional rangers for the summer. That's more than we've ever had since I've been around. And so some of this extra labor will be put towards our problem areas where the no wake problems occur each year. So that's good news there. And although it's been kind of difficult finding people, we do have a good set of candidates lined up to come on board with us. The recent flooding has been minimal in my area, at least for cleanup, and most of that is already taken care of. There was some minor debris at London Landing and also at the Lake Ann ramp. That's been cleaned up. I met with our dock builder and one of the members of the fly tire group this morning about, there you go, Paul, right on cue.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and we discussed the fishing dock that we're proposing to build, and we kind of changed the design a little bit. It's going to now be a floating dock. We'll get more bang for our buck that way, and it will hold up better. Everybody seemed pleased with it. Looks like about a 2 months out before we get started on that. And
is that for Loch Lomond or?
that's for Windsor, on the dam at Lake Windsor. The fly tires, once, sometimes twice a year, have an event there where they, I don't know if you call it a career day or an environmental day, but they put on a program. They have a station where they fish with children and teach them how if they don't know. So that'll provide a good spot for them to continue to do their work. Let's see. The bracing that we had to remove from the marina docks, the gas dock is put back together. B dock is also got its bracing back. But in that whole process, we found that somewhere along the line, years ago, it appears that some bracing was removed and never put back. So we've identified those problems, and is Trey with us today? He is going to fabricate those braces, and we're going to get them put on this summer. So things will be better than they have been as far as that goes. Let me go to my next page. Okay, in the area of fisheries and water quality, We still do not have our trout permit. That is something that I applied for back in early December. If things can't happen in the next week or so, we are going to do more trout stocking in the fall as kind of a makeup, but there's nothing that I can do about that to move things along any faster than the snail's pace that they're going. During the month of March, our grounds maintenance placed additional fish habitat structure in Lake Windsor that were created and helped put in by Phil Ward, member of the Fly Tyers. Our sawguy spawning produced 400,000 eggs from 10 females, from which we hatched 300,000 fry. And this year we had to directly stock those into the lakes because the recent rain did flood out our golf course ponds. So the problem there is that wild fish from the river got in the ponds. So those would have had to have been drained and removed and then refilled. That whole process takes about a month, which we don't have that kind of time. So in one sense, we were lucky that our fish weren't already there to be washed away. And on the other hand, we do lose that opportunity to grow our fish to a larger size. You'll have to excuse me, allergies are terrible. Of those lakes that we stocked 150,000 fry in Lake Windsor, 100,000 in Ann, 50,000 in Avalon, and 24,000 in Norwood. We kept an additional 1,000 fish in tanks to try to grow there. And this is historically the lakes that have had sawguy. So we didn't stock anything new. And just kind of anecdotally, I did spawn the last fish on Wednesday this past week. The water temperature was 59 degrees. That's about 3 weeks out of season and about 10 degrees warmer than they should spawn. So really don't know what's going on there. We'll see what happens. We are bringing on an intern next week, someone who is interested in fisheries and wildlife as a career. They're a Bentonville High School senior, but the good news is they are 18, so they can use our equipment. We can treat them like an adult. Pending their background check, they'll probably start next week. And that, again, was a project funded by the Fly Tyers, and we're happy that they could do that for us and for the young man that's benefiting. Chris Fuller, his volunteer group has already begun taking their lake data readings, their SECI readings. They started that earlier this month, and they'll do that through September. We had an order of fish food arrive today, so our fish feeders will be up and going. The one on Windsor needs some maintenance, but the one on Ann is functional right now. And as always, submit your fishing photos to our What's the Catch webpage. And that's all I have.
What is the status of the pond we were going to build at Loch Lomond?
We were hoping to get those started by the end of this month. I know we're running out of April, but I'm sure the flooding has backed things up. So I would assume that we would be able to get rolling on that sometime in May.
Rick, you had a question about stocking budgets.
Well, I wanted to bring up, we have not talked much about devoting, we've bought fish in the past, the POA has. We do it on a regular basis. I wanted to make a pitch to make sure that, especially with the growth in Bella Vista and increased pressure on fishing on the lakes, that we treat that part of our opportunity or business as something that we respect and fund every year. So I'm trying to convince this committee that it's important, and the POA staff, that It's important. I trust our fisheries and our team that, and I commend them for, the capital investment for the ponds, because I think that's important as well. So I just wanted to bring it up as a topic. Do we have money every year for that? And is it enough?
So we include funds in every budget, and going forward, so at this month's regular board meeting, which is going to occur next Thursday, the board is going to vote on the budget calendar for '23. So we're going to be starting the budget cycle. If you recall, we start usually at the beginning of summer, and we go to the committees and ask them for their input, and they prioritize it. I would say that that is your opportunity as a committee to make it known what is your top priority, if this is your top priority or if something else is your top priority. But as I indicated, we have money in the budget. I think Rick is a better judge, Rick or John is a better judge as to if it's sufficient or not. That's where their area of expertise is. Rick, maybe you could jump in, or John?
Sure. So as far back as I go, there's never been a need to stock largemouth bass. If anything, we need more harvest. But and so from the perspective of a balanced fishery in the lakes, the channel catfish are the species that needs help, needs supplemental stocking. The good news is they're fairly cheap. 2 years ago, we purchased, I don't have my finger on the numbers right now, but we purchased quite a few channel catfish. That was to make up for some lost time where we had tight budgets. The aquaculture ponds will allow us to produce crappie, bluegill, and red ear, which can be prohibitively expensive when you buy the larger fish. And when you purchase the small fish, they really don't move the needle that much because so many of them get consumed, especially when we have an overabundant largemouth population. So the thought is that we would continue to do our saw guy maybe every other year instead of every year, because currently we're doing those every year knowing that at least half the time it's a bust because our golf course ponds flood out. Well, it should be more of a sure thing going forward. And so we don't foresee having to make the effort more than about every other year. So that leaves room to do bluegill, crappie, red ear, which would be the three species that I would push for. And the channel catfish, we can grow our own channel catfish, but the industry is so large that that purchasing them is not as cost prohibitive as some of those other species. So,
Is that purchase funded every year, Rick, for channel cat?
not every year, but 2 years ago we really went. I won't say we went overboard, but we made up for lost time.
Okay.
And if you're catfishing now with any regularity, you're seeing a lot of those fish now are 1.5 pounds to 3 pounds.
I see.
Lot of fish out there.
And Rick, how about blue catfish?
We stocked those at the same time we stocked the channel cats 2 years ago. They are, we have to be a little bit careful with those. They get really big. They can have some negative impacts on other fish. So, but they are desirable in that they can eat the larger shad that a lot of the other fish cannot eat. So,
Can they get the black bass?
in that way.
Can they get the black bass?
Sure, they can take their share, but not, we're not stocking them in any great numbers. And it, we want more harvest of those fish anyway, because the ones that are left behind are able to grow larger. So that's the idea behind that.
Hey, Rick, on that note, I know we've put out some guidelines, we encourage people to keep more bass. Are we getting to a situation where it would benefit us to have an event for a weekend or something, would be a catch and keep bass, so that just draw additional attention to that? Because, bass fishermen are notoriously catch and release people.
Right. I've tried to get we've talked about it with the bass clubs, the tournaments. And instead of the largest fish wins, we say pick a number, 12 inches. And so the best possible result would be, because you can keep 10 fish technically, would be say make the number 12 inches. So your perfect score would be 10 fish that are exactly 12 inches long. And the further you are away from that, the lower your score is. And so it would be a catch and keep kind of tournament. There was some mild interest in that, but it really never went anywhere. And if we could somehow make it work, it might be a good idea to expand that, just for our membership in general, and have an event. I wouldn't be against that.
To give closure to that thought, the ponds is a great idea, so I commend the POA staff for moving forward with that, because it will help. And Rick, just it also gives us the opportunity with the saw guy as well. Is that correct? The brood ponds?
It does, yes.
So that's a great thing. So it really kind of, and money should be spent there. And so it looks like our opportunity, it is on our list, but has always been without much emphasis. So I want to just make sure that the committee recognizes that it is important, and the committee should emphasize it. And we want the POA we want the budget to reflect the fact that it's on our list, and we want that opportunity to purchase those. It sounds like mostly catfish, really.
Well, the other thing I want to mention is that our current intention is to include in the 23 capital budget the 3 additional aquaculture ponds for Loch Lomond. So we have space for 5. For this year, we have funding for 2, but our goal is to put
more.
5 in there in total, which is really going to put us in a really good position.
Right, yes. Probably far better than going out and buying them. So it has a much better impact, I'm sure. So I appreciate that as well. Thanks.
So do we want to go back to the conversation before the meeting started about the beavers issue on Loch Lomond that you were talking about? Do you want to mention that to Rick,
Yeah,
see what his opinion is?
Rick and John, I'll send you some photographs on the Greenbelt area in my neighborhood has damage coming from beavers. One of them is a substantial tree, about 12 to 14 inches in trunk diameter, that it's gone about halfway around. So I did put some fence on it, but getting rid of it, and so there has been some damage. I just want to express that, and Rick and John, I'll send you the photographs of those trunks. And the
Okay.
location.
So I was out yesterday looking for that damage. I responded to a call, and the area that was mentioned in where we went didn't mesh up. I didn't see any damage at all. So if you could be specific about where you're seeing it, I would appreciate it.
I'll send that to you, and I'll be specific. It's a green belt that's near Kincardine and Kincardine Circle, but I'll be specific about where the damage is. I'm just curious, was it in that area or was it elsewhere in the lake? Kincardine is on used to be known as Docks Cove. It'd be the northern, westernmost large cove.
That's where we were yesterday. And
I'll send it to you, and
Okay.
I'll give you a GPS or a drop pin for it.
okay.
Okay, anything else for Rick before we move on to something else? All right. So, I think we have 2 openings to fill, for the beginning of the July meeting, 2022. Rick, do you want to?
I'd like you to fill my position. I've served here 7 years, and it's time for me to put my attention elsewhere. So if you've got someone good, I'd appreciate if you fill my position.
Okay.
Be missed.
And you will
I
be.
say you'll be
sorely missed.
missed.
Yes, you've been on the committee for a long time, and we appreciate, and we do appreciate all the input that you've given us, and feel free to drop by and join us for a meeting every once in a while if you want.
Move to the audience and give you my opinion of what I think you ought to do.
So, we might give you 4 if you're really nice, no. So that being said, we have interviewed 2 people. We feel like we've got 2 good candidates, and I don't think, I've asked Jessica, we don't have any other candidates any other applications that have come through. So the position is open July 1st. We have to send it to the board by when, Tom?
You could do it as late as June, but we always encourage you to do it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could do it fairly quickly in a day or 2.
If you can get it to me before 9 a.m. tomorrow,
Okay,
which is the work session, that way we can let the board know about it in the work session, and at the regular meeting a week from now, then they would formally vote. I don't like skipping the work session and then surprising the community at the regular meeting. I like it to go through the work session and then to the next meeting.
okay. And what do you need from me besides the recommendations? You need any
I just need the recommendations, the names. That's it.
recommendations and the names? Okay.
That's all I need.
I do have applications on file. Yeah, I could send that too if you wanted that or whatever.
I don't need that. I just need the names.
Okay. And the other thing I was going to mention, and I forget this every year, but our July meeting, we have to have election of officers. And so there's chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. I know everybody's clamoring for the secretary's position. That's always a coveted role. So hopefully Carol will be willing to stay on for that. But if somebody else wants it, by all means, submit your name. I'm more than happy to stay on as chairman. If somebody else wants to do this job for a while, I'm more than happy to let them do that. So if you have an interest in doing that, I would ask you to talk to someone so that they can submit your name for either chairman, vice chairman, or secretary role, so that when we come to the July meeting, again, you've got a couple of months to think about it, but July meeting, we always seem to kind of forget that. We kind of get into the meeting and forget about the election of officers, but we need to do that at the July meeting. Anybody else, and I can't see who all's in the meeting. I know Sandy's there and some other people. Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns, topics they want to bring up?
Nope, I have no comments.
Okay,
Keep up the good work.
okay, thank you very much. I guess nobody else is on. So anybody else have any comments, concerns on anything? Because I don't have anything else.
Matt,
Yes?
it's probably not too early to start thinking about a drawdown for the fall, even though I'm about drawed down out. If we're going strictly on on next up basis, it would be like Avalon. I don't have any big needs there. The last time I reached out to Joan, she didn't have any big needs there. But if not, if not Avalon, then it would be like Windsor, or we may choose to just skip a year. But I just Just want to throw that out there.
I think, you know, we have, the POA has needs, and he's saying that we don't have any at this time, but we do know that property owners do have needs. You know, we're seeing, every year we see, you know, people move out, people move in, they want to update the dock, update the seawall, so forth. I think we should, in my opinion, you know, Rick and John are the experts, but in my opinion, I think we should always consider, you know, keeping some sort of rotation for our lakefront property owners.
Okay. I agree. I think it's a good idea to keep rotation, and I'm going to defer to you guys to, you know, which lake, if you don't feel like Avalon is up, we could do Windsor next year and do Avalon the following year, or, I mean, again, we have time to kind of think about it, but, you know, what are your?
It is early in the cycle. If you give me a month, you know, we're already late in April when we're having this meeting. So the meeting coming up in May is going to be just right around the corner. That'll give me a little bit of time to talk to Joan about Avalon and look at some of my notes about the folks that have called in with questions about when the next drawdown is happening. And at least I'll be better prepared for next month. I just wanted to get us thinking that way.
Okay, I agree, and I would again, I don't know what the conventional wisdom is, but if we drew down Windsor, when that water comes back up and that vegetation is allowed to grow a little bit, that generally helps the fishing, doesn't it?
Yes, if we can, if we can get vegetation to grow on the dry ground while the lake is down, and then have it come up, usually we try to grow rye as a green crop, and then as it decomposes, it provides habitat for fish. But recently we haven't been able to get it to grow very well because their winters have been relatively cold. But that's usually what we try to do.
Okay, so yeah, if in a month you want to make a recommendation, we'll be happy to put forward any recommendation that you might have, and I do think it's a good idea also.
I've got a question and then a comment. I guess the question is, there's no adverse effects to drawdowns as far as the fishery. Would that be true?
It kind of concentrates fish, so it can be a benefit for the larger predator fish to have a drawdown, but no real adverse effects. We always shoot to have the lake back to normal
For spawn?
by about April 1st to prevent any adverse effects of that during the spawning season.
So with that said, you know, as Tom mentioned, having that regularity for property owners, which we've said in the past, we would continue with that, is important. And they may not speak up as much because they're reliant on that. So it would be nice to continue drawdowns on a regular basis, whether it's Avalon or Windsor, but just give people the opportunity to take care of their property is important, because the 6-7 year interval is a long time to wait.
Agree.
And we can see that, Lomond as example, those contractors work diligently, but still don't have enough time. So I think it's better for them.
Don't disagree. So, which brings up, just jog my memory on something else. So I know it's early in the year, but having been out on several of the lakes, Loch Lomond water clarity seems to be very, very clear. I mean, it was cloudy once we had that big rain, but once that kind of cleared up, it seems like it's going to be awful clear in some of the other lakes. So do you anticipate
fertilizer costs have gone through the roof this spring. Just ask golf maintenance.
What's gone through the roof?
Fertilizer prices.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
We get more bang for our buck when the water's warmer. We get a better response from the plankton. Also, we want to time the fertilization with the timing of the hatch of fish. So there's really no reason to be early because it's the small fish that take advantage of the plankton. So, towards the end of May is when we would start doing that. And, until then, the lakes may be clear, but that's okay.
Okay.
Windsor Secchi was 3.2 the first reading, 3.1 the second, and I'm not sure what it was this week.
Yeah, I looked at a couple of them. They look like a couple of them were pretty above our target of, what is it, 2.5, 3 meters? 2 meters, I think is our target. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
May 11 will be the next meeting.
Which, to Rick's point,
Back on
is right around the
second
corner,
rotation.
because we're late in the month. So May 11th, it's about 3 weeks away.
And I was just gonna add, I can't recall the exact dates, Rick's probably got them, but our spring electrofishing season for fish populations is about to start within the next few weeks. Of course, that's gonna be weather and temperature dependent, but, so we'll be out late at night as we always are, lots of light, 10, 11 o'clock at night, lots of noise. So if you see something going on the lake, that's just us, don't be alarmed. Well,
Okay.
maybe be alarmed because it is us, but.
Has there been any reaction to the fishing number of fish regulations we put in that lowered that? Any positive or negatives to that?
I haven't heard any negative at all, and I have heard some positive, but not a lot. I think it's being accepted kind of in stride.
Okay, going again. Anybody else? Any other comments, questions? Anybody online? Comments, questions, concerns? Okay, with that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.